Hi. Tonight we're talking about how we can change the pattern. We're into 2018, which is a significant year if you study numerology because it's the year of the spiritual messenger. And so if we are here as a messenger, and if we haven't allowed ourselves to share the messages that we believe we get from our guidance and from spirit, then are we really cooperating with change? Are we changing our pattern, or are we just giving ourselves more of the same thing? Hi Sonia, Bronwyn, Julie, Michelle and Anita, thanks for joining me, because this is the first one in which I'd like to talk about what we can do going forward instead of kind of rehashing what we've done in the past. You know, when you think about it, our lives are full of change, and yet I hear so many people resist change. And if you actually say to someone, how about we have a change in what's going on inside, changing a mindset, wow. All of the resistance comes up, all of the reasons, all of the excuses to stand still. And then people say, I wish my life was different. So now we've got a few more people joined. Hi Jacqueline, hi Glynis, hi Marianne. Change is important because if we're going to live a spiritual life, the first thing we need to embrace is spontaneity. Why spontaneity? Because when we are connecting to our guidance, our mind will try to control the outcome. It will tell us where it thinks we should be, need to be, could be, ought to be. And whilst the logic is wonderful, that's not about our spiritual journey. That's about our mindset. However, if as we start to follow a path, we start to feel that we need to do something a bit different, if we have a spontaneous need to turn left instead of right, we're allowing our guidance to say, perhaps this might be a better outcome for us in the short term. People tell me that they're happy with their lives, they're comfortable with how they are, everything's flowing beautifully. And then, as we go into the conversation, probably 20 minutes later, sometimes not even 20 minutes later, I start to hear if only, or I wish, or perhaps. When you think about it, we're creatures of change. We have seasons that change. When we're adults, we change jobs, we may change partners, we may change our perspective on things. Because it doesn't have a big heading change, because the heading is usually something else, we allow ourselves to work with it. We allow ourselves to flow through it. So how do we deal with change? We've got a few people on the call at the moment. We've now got Caroline and Elaine as well. So how do we deal with change? I asked people, interestingly enough, if they'd like to send me an email with any question that they had, or perhaps if they came on the call with a question, we could have a bit of a discussion. And it's really interesting that not one person actually responded with a question about change or anything. One lady asked where I was, which I thought was lovely. Nothing beyond that. So my question is, are we so focused on maintaining the status quo that we're not prepared to even talk about change because of what it might throw up? Yeah, Anita's saying change in how to let go. If you look at change from the perspective of how you can let go of something, you're dealing with loss. if you look at change from the perspective of where you're going, you're looking at what you're acquiring. You're looking at an adventure, a possibility, something that might occur that we can anticipate instead of fear. We've all had loss. We've all had situations where we felt less or in lack for whatever reason. Over my many years, I found that when it's time to let go, I find it easier if I focus on where I'm going and not on what I'm letting go of. Certainly in my younger years, I didn't like letting go of anything. Now it's easier. Because basically, if you're wanting to walk a spiritual path and you're not prepared to embrace change, you're not walking a spiritual path. Your path is for you to change who you are within more and more, to be aligned with the divine plan, and less to be aligned to the stuff that you've done lifetime after lifetime that's brought you to where you are. Bronwyn's saying that she's interested in change in terms of how to balance immediate needs like livelihood and moving into service. And Tanya says she thinks that sometimes change requires us to walk blind for a little. No, it doesn't. It requires us to keep our eyes open to where we're going, but it requires us not to keep asking, what is the outcome? Where is it taking them? Why is this happening? So, for example, if you're looking for a new job, you know why you want the job. You may not know why, on a spiritual path, you're being pushed to do something that will take you in a new direction. So, for example, earning a living as opposed to spiritual service is a fallacy and it's an illusion. Our service isn't necessarily what we do for a living. What we do for a living, however, gives us an opportunity to serve other people. If you practice who you are, if you practice what you believe you hold within you, that you're here to share with other people, then what will happen is that gradually you will be guided into taking the opportunity to choose that will put you where you need to be. I didn't start out to be a spiritual teacher, mentor, counselor, meditation teacher, or anything of that nature. I wanted to work with languages and business. However, choices that were made as they came up, that I allowed myself to collaborate with because it felt right, took me from where I thought I should be to where I am now. And although I travel to a lot of different countries, languages don't come into it. Interesting, isn't it? Languages don't actually come into it. So if you feel that you don't know where you're going, if you feel you're being pushed to change, my first tip is to look within at who you are and at what within you doesn't feel enough anymore. Because what we tend to do is we tend to project that out onto somebody else. Or it's because of so-and-so, or it's because of this situation. No, it's not. It's because something within you needs to change and expand, and we keep trying to keep the lid on it. So look at what within you isn't enough anymore and where you can take that. And the second thing to do to be able to facilitate change is to play with your imagination. How about, this is how it seems to be pointing, what would that look like? But not, I need to get it right. The biggest blockage all of us have to change is the need to get it right. If we're getting it right, we're in our head, we're not in our heart, and we're certainly not with spirit. One other thing, just as we talk about this and before I close, there's a belief that if we're walking a spiritual path, life is sweet and easy. I can tell you, no, it isn't. Because if it was, you wouldn't be walking a spiritual path. You certainly wouldn't be shifting and changing. You'd be in a cocoon, and it would be a wonderful illusion. And then when you transition to the other side and you look at it, you'd say, why did I waste that time? We will always be challenged to shift and change who we are, to be more when we're walking a spiritual path. So if you have this illusion that life needs to be simple and easy, the simple's correct. You just allow yourself to flow with what's happening and be spontaneous in the moment. If you think it's supposed to be easy, and if it's not easy, you're not walking a spiritual path, that's the illusion. That's the illusion. Because the challenges are the opportunities we have to access who we are that we might not look at otherwise. So, if anybody's got a question that they'd like to ask now, I'm happy to answer it. Otherwise, I'm going to change and go on to the next thing. If you want to talk to me about it, if you want to go into a bit more detail, drop me an email. I'm always happy to answer any emails. But at this point, enjoy 2018, because it is a year where unless we let go of who we have been, we will never meet who we're becoming. Anita's saying, how can you tell you are changing and not tricking yourself? By how you feel. If it makes sense in your head, ignore it. If you feel at peace with what's happening, allow it. I read a quote last week, which I think is fantastic. It's the definition of hell. And it goes something like this. On your last day on earth, you meet the person you could have become. Don't do that. Allow yourself to become it now. Thank you for participating, and I'll talk to you again next month. Bye for now.